Hi, Layla Abdi here. I am a student in History of Technology, and the topic I chose for today is farming. And farming is a process that has been profoundly impacted by mechanization, and I'll explain why. So let's just ask, what is farming? So farming is an activity or business of growing crops and raising livestock. So farming began in areas of present-day Turkey and the Middle East, as well as Europe, about 4000 BC. People used donkeys, oxen, and horses to pull plows and wagons. So farming improved in the Middle Ages due to the introduction of the heavy plow in Europe, where heavy clay soil could be plowed more efficiently. So farming changed a little from then until about 1700. Before the agricultural revolution, seeds were scattered by hand. Jethro Tull invented the seed drill, which sowed seed in straight lines. He also invented the horse-drawn hoe, which hoed the land and destroyed weed between rows of crops. The agricultural revolution took place in the 18th century, which led to the large increase in the production of crops. The adoption of crops from the New World, such as corn and potatoes, produced a very large yield. Robert Bakewell began scientific stock breeding, also called selective breeding, during the 18th century. Thus, farm animals grew much more larger and they gave much more meat, wool, and milk. Examples include cows and chicken. Despite improvements in farming, people still remained plain, tedious, and dull. Meat was a luxury, and people lived off of bread, butter, potatoes, and tea. During the 19th century, farming prospered due to the rapid growth of towns and railroads in many countries. Rapid growth of homes allowed for larger markets, and the introduction of railroads allowed for food to be easily transported. Also to mention, the invention of the refrigerator allowed for meats to be transported as well, which was a huge thing back in the day. So Justice von Liebig and John Laws introduced fertilizers, and John Deere invented a steel plow. John Fowler later invented the steam plow. The plow was used for cutting furrows in the soil and turning it over, especially to prepare for the planting of seeds. During the 20th century, farms immensely increased production. New varieties of grains were introduced, and by 1940, new pesticides were developed. I'll explain more about pesticides later on. Also in the 20th century, farmers began using artificial insemination and used much more artificial fertilizers. And farming became mechanized. Now, how did they become mechanized? Well, tractors were invented. See, tractors gradually replaced horses, and now combine harvesters become common, have become common and are still used to this day. Now, the latest development in farming is genetically engineered crops, and are now being grown in many countries. As many would know or should know, Monsanto is currently the leading producer in genetically engineered seeds. So how has farming been impacted by mechanization? Well, let's just talk about what is mechanization. Mechanization is the process of changing from working largely or exclusively by hand or with animals to doing that work with machinery. So farming is exactly that. But how? The 19th century was the beginning of mechanized farming. During the 21st century, society is currently enjoying the development of farming with the many advancements provided in the past centuries. A great example is the introduction of the steel plow that replaced horses, and combine harvesters that now replace steel plows. So before farming has become what it is today, farmers had to do the field work by hand or with horse-drawn equipment. Now, this took a long time, and farms were small due to being able to work so much land by themselves. Looking at the image displayed on the right, imagine being there in the heat, hours passing by, tediously doing field work to feed such small amounts of people. Exhausted? Yes, you would be. Let's not forget, horses, donkeys, and oxen weren't run on gas. They would get tired often, thus farmers had to let them rest, which caused a lot of empty gaps of productivity. A farmer could only feed 19 people a day with this process. Now, it's 155 a day. Dramatic changes all due to mechanized farming. The history of farming contains many examples, such as plows, free-range livestock, and seed drills. Mechanized farming is responsible for urbanization and industrial economies. Mechanized farming encourages large-scale production. With the pros that come with mechanized farming, there comes cons. So cons include environmental pollution, deforestation, erosion, and displacement of unskilled workers. The Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, estimates say we need a 70% increase in the food production from 2005 levels to feed all the people right now, which is 7 billion people. So we must grow, harvest, distribute, and consume our food more efficiently. As mentioned before, there are over 7 billion people in the world right now, and that's a lot of people to feed. Changes and advancements in the agricultural system can provide food for all. Better technology has allowed farmers to feed more people and also have less people to work on farms, thus allowing them to study other subjects/careers. Mechanization has allowed farmers to make advancements in producing more food for a growing world. Motorized equipment, modified housing for animals, and biotechnology have all improved agriculture to what it is today. So how has this technology impacted technologies that followed it? Here you see a list. Now these are all new technology and processes that have been impacted due to mechanized farming. So we have fertilizers. Now we use artificial fertilizers, which are applied to soil to supply nutrients to plants. We have genetically modified crops, also known as genetically modified organisms, which are living organisms whose genetic material has been artificially manipulated in a laboratory through genetic engineering. So they are the source of medicines and genetically modified foods at grocery stores you see today. Artificial insemination is a common practice in animal breeding. Pesticides is a substance used to kill, repel, or control certain forms of plant and animal life that are considered pests. We have herbicides, which is a substance that is toxic to plants and used to destroy unwanted vegetation. We have seed technology, which is methods through which the genetic and physical characteristics of seeds could be improved. We have cow milking machines, which is where cows are milked with special machines that take less time to milk and fewer people have to spend time milking. We have biotechnology, which is the use of technology to make advances in crop production and in animals. Crops are able to withstand harsh weather conditions such as drought and flooding now. Let's not forget, mechanized farming has also introduced a wide array of new farming equipment. Here we have just a few out of dozens. The grain auger is used to move grain in and out of storage areas. Winnowers is equipment used to free grains from dirt. A hay rake is self-explanatory, and a sprayer used for pesticides and weeds. So with the many advancements of farming, primarily GMOs right now, farming has increased largely from humans to machines. Thank you for listening. As for references, these are my references I used for the production of my project.